When it comes to the Porsche 911, of course, most people prefer the tin tops, the coupes. But then again, pretty much since the car's inception, the company has always offered an open-top version. Of course, it began with the Targa in 1967. The Cabriolet came along in 1983, and today, 1 in 3 Porsche 911s is an open-top. Time then to find out how the latest car stacks up. Oh yes, lovely stuff. Welcome to Attica then, Greece. This is our first drive of the 992 Cabriolet, and much has changed, believe it or not, over the outgoing 991. I myself have always liked the 911 Cabriolet. In fact, the day I married Mrs. K. Sibbs, our wedding car was a beautiful Miami blue 991 Gen 2 Turbo S cab. Looking back, I think it's because my first Porsche 911 experience was also in a Cabriolet. It was a Guards Red 964 C2. So as I say, I do have a bit of a soft spot when it comes to an open top 911. First of all, we need a bit of a history lesson to offer some context regards the 911 Cabriolet, because believe it or not, Porsche's first ever sports car produced was an open top car. And from that point, plenty of open top 356s were produced, either in speedster form or of course Cabriolet. Now, when it came to the 911, Porsche wanted to offer an open-top version of its then new sports car. But there were many problems with that car, just in terms of rigidity. Porsche's answer to that was the Targa, originally called the Safety Cabriolet, hence that rollover bar in the middle. The car was later renamed Targa after Porsche's unprecedented success on the Targa Florio. And the Targa was to suffice all the way up until 1982, a 911 Cabriolet prototype reappearing, this time at the Geneva Motor Show in 1981. That car was four-wheel drive and had a body shell from the 930 Turbo, so the wide body. The final production car, the first ever 911 Cabriolet, was released in 1983 in rear-wheel drive only form as a 911 SC, and it marked the final year of SC production. And the Cabriolet has been on the 911 agenda ever since. The original hood was manually operated, an electrically operated hood wasn't in use until 1987. The plastic rear screen on the back was finally replaced with a heated glass element by the turn of the new millennium. And particularly with the water-cooled examples from that point onwards, Porsche focused a lot of time and energy on making the roof system lighter, quicker to operate, and by the turn of the 991, it's the first time the Cabriolet was able to mimic the smooth, clean lines of the Coupe. The roof is also simplified into a 4-panel system that kind of folded back on top of each other, and the roof went up or down in 14 seconds at speeds of up to 30 miles an hour. Marvellous. So what's the story with the 992 Cabriolet? Well, first and most obviously of all, the engine is exactly the same as the Coupe, so it's a 9A2 coded 3-litre turbocharged version of Porsche's flat 6, here developing 450 horsepower in this S specification. In terms of the chassis, there has been a change for the Cabriolet because for the very first time, a Sport PASM chassis is available. It's been enjoyed on the Coupe since the inception of the 997 back in 2005. This is the first time the Sport PASM chassis is available on the Cabriolet. And the reason for that is, in 992 form, the Cabriolet is now far superior over older models in terms of its torsional rigidity. And a lot of that is to do with the fact that the car has brand new setup in terms of engine mounts, which means for the first time you can have a 911 that offers all the flair and dynamism of a sport chassis car with that open top experience that a Cabriolet gives you. Okay, let's talk about the roof, which is operable up to 50 kilometers an hour or 30 mile an hour. As I'm demonstrating, hopefully it's not got stuck. No, above me already. There we are. Now, as I said, the entire ergonomics of the roof has been revised in order for it to have a quicker operating time. The roof is also a lot lighter in 992 form as well, and that is chiefly thanks to the use of magnesium in place of aluminium for a lot of the roof's structure. There are two bows going across the middle, and the panel around the heated rear screen on the back is magnesium. So the roof is a lot lighter than before, which obviously helps with its speedier opening and closing time. Now, hopefully you can pick this up sound-wise, but with the roof up, sound levels are pretty much the same as the Coupe, to be honest, which is infinitely impressive. There's no wind noise whatsoever, which you would expect from a Porsche costing the best part of £100,000. Rolling tyre noise, extremely quiet for a 911. Again, that's one of the most fascinating aspects of the new 992 for me in terms of its in terms of how comfortable it is, because for a car with 21-inch wheels and 30 profile tyres on the back, there is a significantly less amount of rolling tyre noise, which, as plenty of 911 owners will tell you, has always been a bit of a caveat of the car. For the taller folk watching this, you'll be pleased to know headroom in the Cabriolet with the roof up is roughly the same as the Coupe. Of course, with the roof down, it's even better. It certainly has all the refinement in terms of noise as the Coupe variant. So there are no problems with the roof up, but this being Greece after all, and it being 22 degrees outside, I think it's better with the roof down. Purists won't like hearing this, but the Cabriolet is the more convincing all-rounder. Developments with the new roof in terms of its weight saving and quicker opening and closing times is impressive, but the thing that most defines the 992 Cabriolet is how accomplished its chassis is. There's a stiffness right the way through the car which translates to a direct and positive drive, just like what's on offer with the Coupe, and yet there's nothing of the usual payoff with the ride being too firm or crashy, something you'd be especially keen to avoid in a cab. The whole package really is impressively polished. Those new engine mounts have really come good for this new model. And on top of all that, this is the first Cabriolet to generate downforce, producing 30 kilos over the rear of the car at its top speed of 188 mile an hour. Really then, the whole argument of the Cabriolet being quite severely inferior to the Coupe in terms of its sportiness isn't really legitimate anymore. I mean, certainly in driving this today, there's not a lethargy to the car's chassis in terms of its turning or the way it rolls or the way it rides over bumps like there was in previous generations. It's a really well screwed together sports car with the option of an open top. In the past, the Cabriolet's quest to offer fresh air motoring has been to the detriment of its outright sportiness compared to a Coupe, but for the 992 the performance gap has undoubtedly been closed. It'd be unfair to say the Cabriolet is a rival to the Coupe because the reality is the two cars attract totally different buyers. That said, the Cabriolet really does deliver on the 911's message of being the quintessential all-round sports car, and it's far more convincing here in Cabriolet guise than it ever was with the 991 Targa. We all await with interest to see just what Porsche does with that car.